Hello everybody, you're watching the Smoking Hot Coffee Show. My name is Amul, I'm in Los Angeles. We talk to startup founders and we cover startups, design, monetization, marketing. I'm joined with...
Hey guys, I'm Jeff Pelton and I'm down here in San Diego.
And so today we got a great interview with founder Alec from JustSingIt.com. So Jeff, what is Just Sing It?
Yeah, this is really great. So right now this is an app in the iPhone App Store that is a game. It's a social game where you can go and record a song and send it to your friend and they try to guess what the song is, and I think they pass it back. And so you create a little loop, kind of like what were the other draw with friends, or you can play chess this way and other games. It's kind of engaging way to communicate back and forth with your friends, but in the guise of karaoke.
Right. So he is #1 in the music category in the iPhone App Store. Now, getting in the top 10, top 50 is really hard. It's flooded. And Alec talks about how he creatively iterated the product, how he leveraged Craigslist, how he got people to share their singing, because everybody's kind of afraid of their, if I'm going to sound like shit or not. And he was able to talk about how he got them to share.
I was tracking retention too, right?
It's important. and that's huge. If nobody shares, nobody's going to know about you. And one of the best ways of getting in the top of the App Store is getting people to share. So sharing is key, and he talks a lot about how he got that to happen. And in general, he talks about leveraging micro content, and he's a big fan of the mobile space. He's a third-time serial entrepreneur in this space. He's got 2 big exits in the past. So this is going to be a very eye-opening, ear-opening interview for those of us that are into that space.
Yeah, definitely a lot of great info in here in the mobile space. For those of us that aren't using our mobiles all the time, we really should be paying closer attention.
And on a final note before we cut to the interview, unfortunately, toward the latter half of the interview, my microphone or some technical glitch happened, and so we weren't able to get the last 10 minutes or so, but we will do our best in the blog post to try to recap what we learned during that last 10 minutes. So please be sure to read the blog posts, and in our compilation post, we'll definitely add those tips in.
Hey, and also everyone that's listening out there, make sure to leave comments on YouTube or on the site while you're listening. If there's anything that you want us to ask that we didn't, make sure to give us feedback how we're doing.
Gotcha. And with that, let's cut to the interview. And Alec, so thanks for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Really briefly, can you tell us a little bit about, you got a lot of press recently in TechCrunch about your iPhone app, and tell us a little bit about your background, how'd you get there, and tell us some insider tips on getting on TechCrunch.
Absolutely. So I'm a serial mobile entrepreneur, started at my first company in 2005 after a short stint in investment banking. Started a company called Free411, which was an ad-supported.
Sorry to interrupt. So you're saying you were in investment banking?
Yeah.
So you aren't a designer, you're not a programmer, you are like in the finance area.
I was, yeah. That's when I initially started back in 2004.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so how did you, come on, there's a lot of money in investment banking. What happened?
So I saw an interesting opportunity. I was actually covering telecommunications and media and technology here in New York, and I saw an interesting opportunity in 411. So back in 2004, there were 6.5 billion calls made to 411.
Okay.
At $1.50, it was a $10 billion business nobody really cared about.
Whoa! I had no idea. Okay.
So I told myself, hey, you know what? I might actually have something here. So I started, of course, in New York back in 2004. There was not a lot of venture capital money.
Okay.
Right. I think there was probably like Fred Wilson, and that was basically it. So I started going back and forth to the Bay Area. Of course, working banking hours and basically catching a plane on a Friday, late afternoon, trying to bang out meetings on Friday, and the weekend, whoever would meet with me, and then come back on a red eye on Monday back to work.
Wow.
And VCs basically said, look, you should come, do this, but you should quit the business before we'll even consider giving you a term sheet, because you need to do on this full time.
Yeah, full time. Gotcha. So, okay, so you're in the VC world. You saw that this interesting segment. You saw there's a lot of money here. What was your intake? What was your insight? Like, what kind of app were you thinking of in the 401 space?
Well, back then there were no apps, right? So it was actually 2005. So it was an ad-supported 411 model. So it would be free for the user. You'd call an 800 number, and you'd get an ad that is relevant to what the request is on voice, right? Gotcha, so you say Santa Monica, looking for Pizza Hut. I give you an ad for Domino's.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, so what happened? Did that fly?
Yeah, it went well. We actually raised money from Hammer Windblad, and so about 6 months after I quit. So going back to the story of quitting banking, I literally called them and said, "Look, I'm not coming back." Crashed on my buddy's couch in the East Bay, and 6 months later, we ended up raising money. But
wow. That is awesome. Wait, so you're not responsible for that crazy financial meltdown. You're one of the good guys.
Hopefully that's what I want to think, in spite of the fact that I was working in leveraged finance and high yield.
Oh, you were?
But it was only a year, so hopefully I didn't do too much.
Right, not too much damage. Gotcha.
Yeah, we're glad to hear you made the transition.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, cool. So then what's next for you? What happened after that?
So the company was sold to AT&T in 2007.
Whoa, big exit.
And I moved on to to start another company called Movoxx.
Okay, hold on. So how much money did you make? Come on, tell us.
I can't really talk about it. Very strict NDAs with AT&T, so
really?
I can't really talk much about it. I mean, what I would tell you is, look, it was a great learning experience. I didn't personally make a ton of money, but it was one of those great experiences as a first-time entrepreneur. You learn two magic words: liquidation preferences.
Liquidation preferences. What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean, Abul? I don't know.
What does that mean? I have no clue.
I still don't know what that means sometimes.
All right, we'll have to look that one up.
Okay.
Exactly.
Go check Fred Wilson's blog for that post.
Right. Exactly. So, but it was a great experience to kind of learn about what to do, what not to do. I think everybody needs to kind of go through that process. And moved on to start a company called Movoxx, which was a mobile SMS ad network. So
mobile
in 2000,
SMS ad network. Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So in 2007, SMS just exploded in the United States. Okay. So I kind of saw interesting writing on the wall and went to a bunch of content providers. So think about kind of your top media companies, guys like MTV. Guys like, CBS, and I said, what are you guys doing for your, how are you guys monetizing your SMS traffic that people were signing up for? So me signing up for stock alert, you signing up for horoscope alert, right? Somebody else signing up for sports.
Right.
So there's all this mobile content that wasn't getting monetized. So I said, why don't I become an ad server for all these guys by essentially inserting a targeted ad into SMS traffic that people already signed up for.
Would you be able to decipher that this person's, texting or receiving this text from Santa Monica, and let me show him stuff like that? Or how would you target? Is there any targeting at all? Or
yeah, it's the best. I have the best mobile cookie in the world, which is your phone number.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So let me go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just curious. So, I remember during Twitter's early days, SMS was a huge component, and I think they reserved some space in the text message for an ad, but I never saw that, in person, or, we slipped past the SMS days a little bit too quickly, I think, in the U.S., but how did that work? How did those ads look, and how did they perform?
Yeah, there were 40 to 60 character ads that ran on the bottom of each SMS. The reason why you didn't see them on Twitter is because advertisers would only be okay with posting SMS on the bottom of content that was predetermined, right? Gotcha. So if I'm testing you, if I'm texting you something naughty, you wouldn't want an ad for.
Right.
So
no, they're very sensitive to that kind of thing. Gotcha.
But the performance was absolutely insane. I think a lot of people tend to overthink things on mobile a lot. I mean, one of the things we still talk about, with the team here is, email marketing and how successful it still is and how efficient it still is.
Yeah.
SMS marketing, you have to think about it. SMS is the only medium that has a 98% open rate.
Wow.
Right? Everybody opens an SMS, right?
Yeah.
Go into your phone right now and tell me how many unopened SMS you have.
No, you're right, man. It's crazy opens, man. You're right. It's undiluted so far, man.
Exactly. And then the click-through rates we're seeing were in the high teens.
Wow.
So we would use SMS essentially as a gateway into better interaction. So remember, websites, mobile app downloads, click to video, click to call, those kind of things. So it was a great medium.
Very smart.
Yeah. So we raised money for that in August of 2008. So kind of a crazy time to raise.
That's right. That's when everything went south.
Yeah,
wow.
September. Yeah, so literally, yeah, exactly.
So so that brings me up. So what were some of the big setbacks? How'd you get over? Like, did they look at your track record, and was that the key? What was it?
The track record was good. I mean, we actually grew very quickly. We went from 0 to 50 million uniques in about a year and a half.
Wow.
Okay.
So many people we had on our platform. So when the company was actually acquired, we were serving about 1.2 billion impressions a month.
Jeez.
1.2 billion impressions.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we were only United States, so we didn't even touch the world, really.
Wait, you're talking impressions, you mean SMS impressions?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Holy cow. Wow. Okay.
It's incredible. A huge market a lot of people don't even think about.
Yeah.
It's what I call the lowest common denominator, right? It's kind of like equivalent to if you're in the airport and you can spend $5 on a bottle of water, or you can go to a water fountain, right? So a lot of people will go to the water fountain. It's the same water.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
So that company was backed by a few VCs, including Khosla Ventures, Greycoft Partners, First Round Capital, and BV Capital.
Wow, these are some big names, man. Big blue chip names.
Yeah, it was a good mix of kind of the Silicon Valley folks and the media folks. I think.
Where are you right now? Are you in New York? Were you in New York during all this?
No, I was actually in the Bay Area during all this, and we actually in Movoxx moved to Los Angeles. The reason why LA is one, it's actually way easier to find great technical talent in LA.
Yeah.
A lot of really good schools. Think of USC, Caltech, UCSD, SDSU, UCLA, right? All those places, and and a lot of engineers like the lifestyle of Southern California.
I appreciate it. You mentioned all schools all the way down to San Diego, where I am.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Me and Jeff definitely we talk about the whole LA, and if we'll ever leave to go up to the Valley. And, it's too nice down here, man.
Yeah. So what took you from you went from New York to Silicon Valley? Did the VCs want you to move there when you quit your job and raised your first round?
Yeah, so, during my kind of the banking thing, so I went to Berkeley for school. So I was already in the Bay Area for 4 years. So I already had all my connections and kind of, the ecosystem down there.
Second home.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so you were in LA doing this thing. How long did that last?
So we did that for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
2.5 years. And, we actually were acquired by a Canadian company called Deigo. And right when we got acquired, actually, there was an offer that was put in for the combination of both my company and the Deigo. And we ended up selling the combined entity to a company called Metricity, which is one of Carl Icahn's companies, for about $100 million.
Wow.
And that was about 2.5 years ago.
Wow, fantastic. I'm hoping you got a big payday that day.
It was, it was well worth the effort.
All right, we'll just count that as several million. All right, cool. So then, all right, so great. You second time around, 2 exits. You're on fire, man.
Yeah, so I think, the first kind of 2 experiences obviously cemented, me being kind of a mobile guy and understanding mobile advertising well and mobile consumers and understanding how fickle they really are.
Okay.
The interesting part, your question about kind of, what were some of the challenges that I had to face doing this is that it's for the first time I was actually doing a pure consumer play. Okay. Right, so my first 2 companies were advertising, and again advertising, right? So it's more of a B2B, kind of relationships.
Yeah.
Here you have to rely on directly on consumers for your success.
Gotcha.
And I think over the last 9 months, the venture capital thinking of kind of how VCs and how the world kind of thinks about consumer has changed dramatically.
Okay.
Really?
When 9 months ago you had guys like Draw Something selling for $180 million to Zynga. I mean that was hot, and then and then it was very quickly it switched to we're now looking much more B2B SaaS, data kind of platforms and away from consumer. Which is interesting, right? Because if you think about, I think there are a few VCs that have this argument. If the herd is going one way, the way to make money is to go the other way.
Right. Right.
Which I think is stressing.
Yeah. So what's one of the big challenges doing the consumer B2C? I mean, is it just trying to get big mass media partners on? What's the big problem there? And
just getting users, right? I mean, everybody today, it's still two things. One, it's a very cluttered space, and two, everybody has ADD, right? So nobody is going to read a book anymore. It's
yeah.
People can barely get through a Fast Company magazine article, let alone 200 pages.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem, right? And even if you have them, they're very, very fickle, right? You do something, and you have to just make sure that your consumer experience is so good, that people continue to come back and constantly utilize the platform.
Okay. So introduce us to your product. What's your latest, the consumer product you're talking about?
Yeah. So the consumer product is called Just Sing It. It's a mobile game that is what you call an asynchronous multiplayer game, where I essentially am making or helping the world sing.
Very cool. When you say asynchronous multiplayer, clearly you've got the viral hook built in, right? You're basically sing along with somebody else, or tell us more about that.
Yeah. So you sing along with you actually sing to somebody. So think of almost karaoke meets Name That Tune in a 2.0 kind of format, right? Okay. So let's go back for a second. I've always been fascinated by micro content sharing, especially with what kind of Vine did for video and what Snapchat did for pictures. Sure. But one piece that I think has been very undermonetized and underappreciated is the singing voice as a medium to carry that content. And so we kind of thought of it, and we said, look, what better way to do it than to base it on a game where where we take a known concept, kind of a Name That Tune concept, and we take it into an asynchronous game. So very simple. I go into the game, I pick a genre, I pick a song to sing, I sing you a song, and then you have to guess what the song is.
Wow.
And that was the original.
Wait,
that was the original.
All right, so step back a little further. Like, how did you come up with this, man? I mean, were you just getting wasted one day with your buddies, and how did this happen, man?
Spark of genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically kind of looking at, first of all, draw something success was interesting to me, right? Okay. The whole kind of understanding of, hey, you know what? Well, I guess it's more of a kind of genre of games of asynchronous, right? So I go in there. And if I don't see anybody in the game, I'm out, right? And good luck getting me back. Right. So I thought that was a really, really cool concept from that angle. And then singing, to me, is just way more interesting than anything else out there. I keep watching people sing Journey wasted at a bar, right? Why does everybody sing Journey when they're at a bar? It's with everybody.
Right.
And so it was just interesting, right? And then I started looking at shows, and I looked at TV, and I looked at the three highest grossing and monetized shows in television.
Right.
And you know what they are?
Yeah.
American Idol, The Voice, and X Factor.
And X Factor, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's definitely something magical about that. I'm not in that audience myself, but I've certainly worked with people and seen the audience is bigger than I would imagine. What is it about the cultural thing in America, or that we just love that so much? And why is it under-tapped?
I think it's the fact that it's one of the few mediums left out there that actually you can show, A, your originality, 2, your creativity, and 3, you can actually become famous.
And to be honest, you've got these great musicians that inspiring you, and if you get a couple of beers in you, then all right, there you go, And
exactly right. And that was actually one of the things that it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I can draw quietly while I'm talking to you, guys, or I can write or whatever, but I can't really sing while I'm on a bus or in a coffee shop or in a conference room, right? So that was my biggest actually concern with the American public. Are people going to actually sing if I give them a platform to sing? And that was a big concern for me to launch this platform.
Okay. All right, so you had the idea, you had some issues. So did you have a hard time finding some developers and designers to help build the game? Tell us about that.
So I moved to New York after the acquisition, right? And so I've been here now for 2.5 years. So what's great about New York in the last, I think, literally 2 or 3 years is, there's been a phenomenal ecosystem that's developed here of really smart people that understand social, that understand viral hooks, that understand data and analytics, and understand how to develop a really, really good product. So I was lucky enough to have known a lot of people, and obviously, have having done a little bit of angel investing in the mobile space as well, I was able to put together a really solid team of folks that that worked with me very, very closely side by side.
So as a nuts and bolts, if you're in New York, would you recommend like going to meetups? Like, what's a good way to get to know folks, in your opinion?
I think hackathons are fantastic. I think meetups are great. You really kind of have to get into. It's just kind of like any circle, right? There are a lot of kind of main cogs in the wheel, right, that kind of hold the circles together. So if you get to know some of these guys or gals, that hold, those communities together, it becomes really, really interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you got a couple of designers. Sorry, Jeff. How long did it take you to build the app?
So the ideation started in March of last year. So we ideated, so we went back and forth for about, I would say, 2 months before we actually started working on it. And instead of saying, hey, I'm going to build an app, what we did is we actually launched quite a few beta tests and went back and iterated very, very quietly before releasing it out to the public. So, I think, just to sidetrack for a second, I think one of the biggest problems with products, especially with folks, building products and technology-focused teams, is people tend to just build product for the sake of building product. Instead of building a small product or, just being very, very good at one thing, going out there, getting feedback and coming back and saying, look, you and I can sit here and pontificate about the meaning of life for the next, 30 days. But who cares, right? At the end of the day, people who really care are the users, right? You got to listen to them and come back and iterate, and then have a much better understanding of what it is you're working on.
Okay. Yeah, so I want you to elaborate on that more. Like you said, you found a lot of difficulty coming from B2B to engaging with the consumers. It's just challenging, right? Like, it seems easy, but you really have to get on the ground and get the feedback. What was the engagement? What was the iterative loop that you guys did there during the betas before you public launched?
Yeah. So we basically went out, right? And so first of all, we conducted a bunch of very, very on-the-ground studies. So literally, we would pay people through a Craigslist ad.
Oh, there we go. That's what I want to know. You put an ad in Craigslist saying, "Hey, we'll pay you to use our app."
No, we said, come in, and we want you to spend half an hour with me, and literally we probably did that to maybe I would say 50, 60 people, right?
Wow.
Come in with me, I'll pay you $10 for half an hour to play a computer game.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love
this.
Play
a mobile game,
All right, great. So this is an actual, this is a real thing that people can do. You pay people $10, put an ad in Craigslist, have them come in, have them play with the demo. How many times did you do this?
We did it with about 50 people, I would say.
50 people. That's a pretty big sample set. Yeah. So then what do you do with, how do you turn that into actionable information? Do you, just, are you looking over their shoulders? Are you behind a one-way screen? And how do you collect it and act on the data?
You're looking at our shoulders, basically. I think that's the easiest way to do it, right? It's the cheapest, right? And especially if you're bootstrapping a company. I mean, I'm not going to go and build a tracking device or anything like that, or even utilize any software. I just take notes, and then basically we come back and we say, okay, out of the 50 people, here's who we thought were the best. Here's where people really struggled, and you just watch people do things, and it's absolutely fascinating.
Give us an example of something that you thought was super easy, but people struggled with, or some surprises.
So a surprise was, and I don't know if this is a surprise or not, but people actually click everywhere. When they're faced with an interface, people just start clicking away everything. They think it's a button. They don't care. They just go boom, 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 and it's very, very quick, right? So you gotta build a flow again of just like taking people from point A to point Z, and you have to give them very precise directions. A, next thing is B, next thing is C. The moment you give them different paths of decision, they get lost and they don't know what to do.
Got you. So the trick is, so the rule here is less is more. Don't give them too many options.
Exactly. Yeah, and guide them from for where you want them to go. People need to be guided essentially. So
very cool, very cool. So did you do this Craigslist thing one time? I mean, you said 50 participants. Did you do like 10 at first and then do another set of 10?
Yeah, we did like 10, 10, 10. Yeah, so we did 5 sets of 10 people.
Wow, okay. Very, very cool. All right, cool. So you got this thing working out. When did you know, like, man, this thing is really, people are really loving this? Like,
so we really didn't until we launched. So we did Australia as a beta, so almost like a quiet beta. We released it in Australia, and the reason why Australia makes a lot of sense as a test market. Again, this is something maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but a lot of people look at Canada to be the test market before launching in the United States. Okay. Canada as a launch market is very oversaturated now, so Australia is fantastic because one, it mimics purchasing behavior of a U.S. user.
Gotcha.
2, it's an English-speaking country, and C, the iPhone penetration is big enough for it to be a good test.
For a good sample set. Gotcha. And so once you did that test market, you knew. Did you know, wait a minute, people are installing this, people are telling their friends to install it. What was the key metric you're looking at?
We were looking at installs, but we were actually looking more for where the drop-off happened during the flow, right? So I think people need to really, whenever they're building products, they need to not only look at the product, but also look very careful at their funnel analysis, right? So using analytics tools like, Flurry, I think does a really good job at.
Sorry, can you say that again? Which one are you using?
We used Flurry.
Flurry.
Okay.
Analytics, that I think made sense. And ultimately, it's one of those things where you understand where people drop off the most, and you're fixing that before you go to the bigger sample set. So, for example, we saw that that a lot of people dropped off where before they actually submitted their song. So they would sing, but they actually wouldn't submit it because they thought their voice sucked.
So they got embarrassed. They're like, oh,
they got embarrassed. They got embarrassed.
Wow. So that's a tough one, man. How'd you get over that?
So what we did is we implemented a function called the voice filter. Okay. So think of Instagram for voice, right? But what Instagram does, look, all of us are pretty bad photographers for the most part, right? But Instagram can make me a phenomenal photographer. Yeah. I can make you sound like a hamster. Right, and or a robot, or a female, or whatever it is, or I can auto-tune your voice. If I can make you sound like Lady Gaga, right, obviously that becomes really interesting.
Right.
So we implemented voice filters, and the drop-off rate went from very high to almost 0.
Wow. So people that were a little scared, they put the little robot filter on there just to make fun of themselves a little bit, and that made it comfortable for them to go and release it.
Yeah.
Wow, that was huge. Where did you come up with that idea? Did you and you guys brainstorming? Like, how did that happen?
We just it was a team effort. We sat down and we said, look, how do we, what are we trying to do here, and kind of what excites people? And obviously, you kind of look at things like filters, and you say, especially during voice is so personal, right? It's right there. It's kind of weird. It's a cool way to show yourself in a very original manner, right? In a very creative manner.
Yeah.
But it's still anonymous enough so I don't have to show myself on a video, right? Which is very, very personal, right? You guys are looking at me, you know exactly what I'm doing.
No, I totally get it. It's almost like when you go to the nightclubs and they have the light turned down just enough.
Exactly.
And so people are comfortable dancing because the lights are low enough.
Yeah.
So let me ask you.
The lights turn on, and it's like, whoa.
Nice. Yeah. So you mentioned on the outset that you were afraid that maybe people would be afraid to actually sing in public because, it's not like texting or taking a photo where you can kind of do it secretly. Have you learned anything about that? How people are overcoming their fear of singing? Are they doing it in the the privacy of their bedrooms, or are they doing it on the bus?
Yeah. So we're looking at a younger audience. A younger audience really does not care at all about the thing, right? The kind of your post-18 crowd, they're singing in 2 places. One, on their commute to work.
Wow. Yeah.
So think about it, right? Wow. So what are you doing in your car, right?
You're singing in the car.
Yeah, you're
singing to radio, but nobody's listening. The radio isn't listening to you, right?
Right.
So why not sing to your buddy, right? Or sing to a cute girl that you've been singing with over the last couple of days.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And 2, they're singing on their couch when they come home from work, right? Okay. So they're watching another, they're watching another Law and Order. Or they're watching Lost, and a commercial comes on. They can't fast forward, so they put commercial on mute, and they sing a song because it takes 15 seconds to sing a song. It's a
gotcha. You know, I have to tell you, this whole commute thing is so, especially here in LA, man. Everybody's stuck in traffic.
Oh yeah, I mean, an average American commute, I think, is about an hour and 5 minutes. I want to say. Wow. So you can get a lot of songs out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I really think it's cool. the singing, the audio. You really have a medium that's kind of just like on the edge, on the cusp of all of our attention. Like you said, we've done this with photos and with some other things, but I think audio is something that's been untapped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So at what point are you making money? Are you even making money now?
So we have a virtual currency component in the game right now. So the virtual currency component is good, and it's it essentially helps you either guess the song or it helps you get a bigger variety of songs or genres. So if you guys play the game, you'll understand kind of what I mean. Okay. Ultimately, right now, I'm not 100% focused on monetization because for me, it's all about the user experience, improving that, and making sure that that we get as many users as possible in the most sticky way possible. Right? Gotcha. That's what I'm focused on right now. Okay. Once I have that down, then the team is gonna focus, on monetization.
Okay, well, based on some of the stuff I've read on TechCrunch, you've said that your audience is primarily females.
Correct. 85%.
85%, and clearly they buy stuff. Pinterest has proven they buy stuff.
Exactly, and our crowd is actually very much a Pinterest crowd. Okay. If you look at kind of my average user, it's your housewife from Ohio or your teenage girl from South Dakota. It's very much folks that are in the middle of the country. They love their songs. They love their people in the South love their country. People in the Midwest love their pop. Gotcha. People in in urban areas love their hip hop and R&B. So it's a great it's a great way to kind of get people singing.
So tell us, you mentioned that you're thinking about turning this into some sort of gateway for a social network. Tell us more about that.
So what we're seeing, and that's what's really interesting, is we're seeing a lot of women and men interact in a way that is much more flirtatious than we initially thought. So we find that very fascinating, right? And ultimately, I'm a big believer that if you have a club or a bar that has 85% females. Yes. I don't have to twist you guys. I don't have to twist you guys' hand to say, hey, come hang out, come join the party.
Guys will pay for that, man. Yes.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So
all right, cool. So the dating vertical is massive on the internet. We all know that. Yeah. So you're thinking something dating related?
Oh, not now, right? So we'll definitely focus on music today. Okay. But I can't predict what users are going to do, right? Mm-hmm. Or how are they going to evolve themselves. But I think there's something very interesting there when ultimately there's a good component of a user, instead of me singing one-to-one as what's happening right now. Okay. I think it makes a lot more sense to transition it to more of a social platform that I'm talking about, where it's perhaps a room, right? So say, Jeff is in the room and he is a great singer, right? And he's singing to he just sang a song, but instead of singing it to Alec, Jeff actually sang it to 40 people, right? Mm-hmm. So that ping pong happens a lot quicker, right? Because right now it's one-to-one ping pong. Right. So, essentially it will be a lot faster. We all know the paradigm, right? 90% of content is produced by 10%
of the audience. So you think of a one-to-many model. That's your next step. You're thinking.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So so you're in this sort of we've got a popular app. It's being installed. People love it. Now you're in that monetization or how to grow this phase. Oh, this sounds like a pretty challenging situation. All right, so I'm assuming this was a funded operation. Was it you funding this? Did you get some investors?
Yeah. So I funded it initially myself. I've been funding it for the last 9 months.
Okay. All right. Okay. So how much money are you going to burn through here, Alec? I mean, is there a big burn rate here?
Nope. It's actually, that's what's great about this this kind of a business. It's a very, you can make this a very lean, capital efficient business, right? It's all about user experience. It's all about getting users to be very sticky. So ultimately, I don't think it's a place where you need to necessarily raise a ton of money. And I actually, most of the time I encourage entrepreneurs not to raise a lot of money. I always love those kind of like funding parties where people raise $5 million and they're like, yay, let's throw a party and let's get wasted. And
Right.
But every time you raise money, you have to remember, and I think I haven't really done the data behind it, but I think I'm somewhat true that for every $5 million that you raise, you lose about, I would say, 20% of a potential acquirer pool that can acquire you.
Wow.
So think about that, right? So if you raise 10, how many people can buy you? If you raise 20, how many people can buy you?
Wow. Okay.
So I think about that kind of all the time, right? Not again, not as a